fact that men think about sex all the time, that should not surprise anybody, right? But what you might find a little shocking is the depth at which it affects them every day. That is what's surprising. Welcome back to my channel, friends, and let's get started. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Today, I want to talk to you about 6 reasons why we as married women should never deprive our husbands. 6 reasons why we should never use sex as a weapon. 6 reasons why meeting his physical needs is absolutely imperative to a successful marriage. Every married couple should have a healthy, normal, sexual relationship. In fact, the Bible even talks about it. The Bible talks about that that since there's so much immorality in the world, let me read it to you verbatim. This is 1 Corinthians 7:2. But since there is so much immorality, each man should have his own wife and each woman her own husband. The husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife and likewise the wife to her husband. Verse 5, do not deprive each other except by mutual consent and for a time, so that you may devote yourselves to prayer. Then come together again so that Satan will not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. Listen, the Bible is very clear that we are meant to have a very normal, healthy sexual relationship with our husbands. That is biblical. That is God's plan and design for our life, right? But that's not always easy. Is it not? Because as women, we are wired totally differently than men are wired. Men are, well, let me just jump right on into my 6 things. I got a lot of today's information from this book called The Man Whisperer by Dr. Rick Johnson. He shares the man's perspective in such an easy to understand way. So let me share some of them with you. Number 1, males can be stimulated by nothing at all. Nothing at all. For no reason at all. They can become sexually aroused, which is hard for us as women to understand because we don't, most of us, it takes something to sexually arouse us, right? But for men, it takes nothing whatsoever. And you know, you would think that I would know this by now, but recently I was getting ready for one of our luncheons, in fact, and I had a dress on and I asked my husband, I was like, can you see my panty lines? Because I wanted to make sure there were no panty lines, and anyway, that kind of stuff. It's important, right? And so I was asking him, in fact, I guess I was maybe bending over so he could see to make sure that no one was going to see my panty lines, right? And anyway, he was like, no, I can't see anything. Well, I didn't think anything of it. Well, later that night, I get home and getting ready for bed, and he says to me, you know, you're lucky you made it out of the house this morning. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, when you asked me to look at your panty line. And I didn't think anything of that. Anyway, all that to share is that men can become aroused at nothing at all. And that's why women, it is so important for us to make sure that we're sensitive to that. Okay, number 2. Number 2 is that men think about sex a lot. They think about sex so much. Listen to this statistic that Dr. Johnson says. He says, reportedly, men think about sex an average of 33 times a day, which makes that possibly twice an hour. Well, can I just tell you that we as women, we don't think about sex that much, so it's hard to understand, but it's really important that we understand that this is how much our men think about sex. Okay, number 3, men consider sex one of the basic necessities of life. Right up there with food, water, air, the air we breathe. That is how important sex is to your husband, which I had no idea. I truly had no idea. But meeting his physical needs is imperative to a successful marriage. So we have to keep these things in mind. Okay, number 4, men have a need pattern. And this is where it gets a little dicey because I would love just to put my head under the desk and pretend like this doesn't exist. But when I read this, it made total sense. So maybe this will make sense for you. Dr. Johnson explains that the human male, because of sperm production and other factors, they naturally desire a sexual release about every 48 to 72 hours. Yeah, that's a lot, right? A lot. But can I tell you, it makes total sense, does it not? And so, friend, I want you to be the savvy wife, right? And so, think about it. When was the last time you met that need? If it's been a while, girl, chop chop, it's time. I have read in other places as well that that they begin to hurt physically. They begin to hurt when their intimate needs, their physical intimate needs, are not met. And God calls us to be their need meters, right? And we don't want to give the devil a foothold. We don't want to open a door of temptation for them in any way, shape, or form. And so that's one of the reasons why I think it's so important for us to be cognizant of these things so that we can have a strong marriage. Okay, number 6. No, I think number 5. I'm sorry, number 5. Men are wired to feel, I can't say this. Men are wired to feel fulfilled when their sexual needs are met, which is totally opposite of women, right? For a woman, when you have romanced her and loved her, really give her non-sexual attention, that is what brings a woman to feel fulfilled. But for a man to feel, I don't know why I can't say this, to feel fulfilled, his physical needs have to be met. And so I think it's important for us to keep that in mind. My friend, my mentor, Susie, she used to say to me, Tara, if your husband's in a bad mood, you need to think, when was the last time you slept with him? When was the last time? And that is probably why he's in a bad mood. And so I had never really thought about that before. She told me that years and years and years ago, but I still remember that today. So not that long ago, like a few days ago actually, my husband was really grumpy. And I went to my mind, I'm like, when did we last have sex? And it dawned on me, it's probably time. So anyway, be aware. That's how a man feels fulfilled. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time with that. Okay, number 6. Sex meets both a physical and an emotional need for men. Listen to what Shaunti Feldman gives. She gives this analogy in The Man Whisperer. He shares her analogy from Shaunti Feldman's book about men. She says, a lack of sex for a man is as emotionally serious to him as, say, his sudden silence would be to you. So like if your husband just all of a sudden was silent and wasn't talking to you, that is horrible for me. She goes on to say, were he to simply stop communicating with you, it is just as wounding to him when you stop sleeping with him. It is equally as wounding, and it is dangerous for your marriage. And so friends, we want a strong marriage, and meeting our husband's physical needs is one of the ways that we have a strong marriage. I once had a pastor's wife tell me, and I thought this was absolutely a brilliant analysis or a brilliant illustration. She said, picture a wall. Picture a wall that you are building around your home, so to speak, that you don't want invaders coming through that wall. As we meet our husband's physical needs, it's like brick by brick by brick. We're securing our home. We're building a wall, a fortress around our marriage and our home. And I just thought that was such a great analogy. I hope I said that right. But I hope you get what I'm talking about. When we meet our husband's physical needs, it makes our marriages stronger. So let me ask, when was the last time? Can you remember? If you can't remember, it's probably time. It's probably time. Okay, hope that helps. Oh, there's going to be more where this came from in future videos. I know that I'm supposed to talk about this, but it's so uncomfortable. Anyway, have a great day. See you next time.